All right, we're going to start the tear down of my 258 here. Got it out of the Jeep. It's an 81 Jeep, inline 6, obviously. So first I have it on the stand here. I'm going to go ahead and start, I think, with the exhaust and intake manifolds, get those out of there. There might be some coolant in here in the coolant passages, so I want to get that out without making a huge mess. And then I think next will be the water pump, pulling that off the front here. And then probably the thermostat housing as well. And then move on to some of the, I think the oil, mechanical oil pump, which actually works great. I know there's a ton of issues that people are having. Maybe I got a good one. They talk about putting that little 1/4-inch spacer right in there, and that the lever arm inside that goes on the cam is too long on the ones that are aftermarket now, and that causes failure quickly. But you know, this one works great, so I'm going to reinstall this one when I build it. Obviously, new HEI distributor. I'm going to pull that out and then move on to some of these other smaller parts. Like I've already pulled this off. I only have it screwed in there just for keeping it safe. Probably the dipstick. And then after all those accessories are off, probably the head will come off next. I've already cracked all the bolts on it. See, everything in here is pretty dirty and ugly, but we'll have a chance to freshen all that up and check the valves and everything when I pull this off. I've already cracked all these bolts a little bit here, so I'm just going to go ahead and, it's already loose a little bit. I'm going to pull the rest of this off. It's still, the exhaust and intake are still being held together by, I don't even know what you call this recirculation. So the intake and exhaust is still being held together here. So I'll pull that off at some point quickly or two. I'm going to pull off these bottom bolts first. There we go. There's a little bit of liquid in there, but here we have an intake manifold. Go ahead and pull this off while I'm going to end up capping those off if I do end up using the same intake and exhaust manifold. And there it is. Exhaust manifold. Okay, all the bolts holding in the exhaust intake manifolds, they're all 3/8 inch. There's 3 different sizes. The 2 that go to the top, they have these like extra special, I don't even know if these, I think I bought these are aftermarket, but so they're almost 3/8 inch spacers, I guess, but they hold in the exhaust manifold on these top 2 here. They're 1.5 inches long each. So again, they have the special washer there. The 2 outside bolts are 1 inch, also 3/8. They have the funky washers here. Those retainer washers. I guess I need to get another one for the back one. Didn't realize that I just used 2 flat washers. But they go into these 2 outside holes right there. And actually mine is stripped over here. I knew that a while ago. This one is stripped, so I'm gonna have to get an insert, a helicoil or something like that to go ahead and fix that. But so that's those 2. And the rest of these are 1 1/4, also 3/8. Again, they have that kind of special retainer washer, which clips in both the exhaust and intake manifold, kind of sandwiches in there. It doesn't seem like a very effective design, but I guess it works well enough. And we're going to take off the thermostat housing next. Yep, 1/2 inch. RTV in there. And there we go. Make a little bit of a mess, not too bad though. There's the old gasket. Some red RTV on both sides there. A little bit, and then the thermostat housing. And this is what I replaced. I think I had to replace with something that was a little bit less. I think it's supposed to be 195, so I bought a 195 to replace this one. This one is only 180, but based on some reading I've done, it's supposed to be 195, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace it. All right, now for the water pump. Looks like there's only 3 bolts holding this on. I should have actually taken off that aluminum spacer. I didn't realize that it wasn't really attached on there. It was press fit a tiny bit on the shaft, but if I had wiggled it some more, it would have come off, and then the pulley would have come off with it. If you see at the end of this video how those things fit together, that would have made getting those bolts out much, much easier. So yeah, that aluminum spacer should have come off first. All right, I got the thermostat housing and the water pump out of there. And so just a close-up of that. I took this stud out. I'm going to replace both those. Those are 5/16. This one is like 2 1/4 long, and they're coarse thread. And this one is, I believe it's 1 1/4. And just replace those with 2 new bolts. This is the water pump. I think I said 3 bolts, but there's actually 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of them was hiding down at the bottom. I didn't quite see that, but I have to get that off. So that's pretty much opens up the whole front here. You need to take the harmonic balancer off and get to the timing chain cover. And then there's a close-up of the, it's a little bit dirty and mangly, but it's hard to see any of those numbers. All those numbers and everything are hidden. Basically just the notches are visible once you get everything in there. I think it's the power steering pump that covers it up, as well as the water pump. And then, so those will come next, the distributor and the mechanical fuel pump. So here's the water pump here, and it may even be original. I'm not quite sure. It looks pretty old. I don't really see any numbers, cast marks on it, or anything that may be hidden. But I'm going to go ahead and replace it. They're less than $100. And I just soon replace it while I have it out, just in case. I think it was working okay. But anyway, I was a little confused as to how this thing was set up because I've never had it apart before. I've had my fan off before, and I believe this is not the original fan. That says 98, and I haven't seen any pictures of it, so I don't think that's the original. So this was connected to this spacer here on the back, and I had so here's the pulley. Again, I wasn't quite sure what was going on there because this goes on the front there, which is pretty straightforward. So you may have a different setup because I know some of them come with fan clutches and things like that. But this is how mine was. So this piece goes on the top there, and I think that comes with the new one. And then this goes right on top. And I wasn't quite sure because I had the 4 bolts and the fan off, and this thing wouldn't come off here. And I realized after I took my regular steering puller. There's a lot of videos on this. So I've done my steering wheel with this. I was able to pull off this pulley here. I think I'm going to be using this for the harmonic balancer. And I also was able to pull off the pulley from my power steering pump. So this thing gotten a lot of use out of it. It's come in pretty handy for it. But yeah, I couldn't get this piece off and I wasn't quite sure what was going on there. And it turns out that the shaft here, the nozzle, was already through the top here, and basically it was stuck on, it was like wedged on there. So I wasn't sure if it was how it was connected, but I did finally figure that out. So I probably didn't even need to take this off. Again, if I'm replacing the power steering, if I'm replacing the water pump, I think, at least the pictures I've seen online, it comes with a new one of these on there. But I will pay attention to where it was on the nose here and how far it is, because I've seen reference online to different length shafts coming out of the power steering pump. Because remember, these things have to line up. This has to line up the belts between the harmonic balancer and also the power steering pump and alternator. So I will try to measure that and make sure that I keep that all consistent. Anyway, so that's all those pieces that came out.